A 73-year-old retired janitor discovers a paper bag containing $50,000 in cash while cleaning a parking lot. Without hesitation, he turns it in to the police. Later that same day, he receives a parking ticket and appears before Judge Frank Caprio, setting the stage for an extraordinary moment that reminds us why honesty still matters and that genuine goodness never goes unnoticed. This is the story of Frank Romano, a man whose quiet integrity meets Judge Caprio's deep respect for those who choose to do what's right, even when no one is watching. Tell us in the comments where you're tuning in from, because this story of simple honesty has inspired people everywhere who believe character still defines true worth. It's Wednesday afternoon, 2:15 p.m., in Providence Municipal Court. Judge Frank Caprio scans the day's cases, mostly routine parking violations, until one file stands out. The defendant had made local headlines for returning a bag of cash. Community attention was high. The name on the citation, Frank Romano, 73 years old, charged with overstaying a downtown parking meter. But what catches Judge Caprio's eye isn't the ticket. It's the attached police report detailing what happened just hours earlier. Alongside it, a handwritten note from Frank reads, "Your Honor, I accept full responsibility for the ticket. I overstayed the meter, but I hope you'll understand I was delayed because earlier that day, I found a large sum of money and was trying to deliver it safely to the police." Frank Romano walks into the courtroom with quiet dignity, dressed in his best shirt and tie, clearly showing respect for the court. For 42 years, he worked as a janitor in the Providence school system. He's been married to Rose for 51 years, and together they raised 3 children, all teachers. "Good afternoon, Mr. Romano," Judge Caprio greets him warmly. "I've reviewed the police report about your actions. Before we discuss your citation, please tell everyone what happened." Frank steps forward, nervous but sincere. "Your Honor, I was cleaning the parking lot behind Tony's restaurant when I noticed a brown paper bag under a dumpster. I opened it thinking it might be trash, but I was stunned to see it filled with cash." The courtroom falls silent. I counted it, $50,000, all in $100 bills. My first thought was that someone out there must be desperate to find this money. Maybe it was their life savings or money for medical expenses. "So what did you do, Mr. Romano?" the judge asks. "I finished my shift and went straight to the police station. I told them exactly where I found it and asked them to please locate the rightful owner. The desk sergeant said most people would have kept it, but I told him that's not how I was raised." Frank's straightforward explanation reveals remarkable moral character. "I got the parking ticket because I was so focused on returning the lost money to the police that I forgot to put quarters in the meter afterward. I know that's not an excuse." Judge Caprio reviews the report with visible respect. "Mr. Romano, it says here you refused any kind of reward when you turned in the money. Is that true?" Frank looks genuinely puzzled. "Your Honor, why would I want a reward?" Judge Caprio meets his eyes, the kind of look reserved for people of true integrity. "Mr. Romano, in my 47 years on this bench, I've rarely witnessed the level of honesty you've shown here today." Frank shifts uncomfortably. "Your Honor, I don't understand why everyone's making such a big deal. I just did what any decent person would do." The courtroom quietly acknowledges something extraordinary, a man so sincere that he can't comprehend why his goodness stands out. "Mr. Romano," the judge continues, "have the police located the owner of the money yet?" Frank's face brightens with genuine concern. "I called them this morning. They said they have a lead. Someone reported losing cash near that restaurant. They're checking to make sure it's really theirs." Judge Caprio leans forward, intrigued by Frank's lingering concern. "You followed up on the case. Most people would have considered their part done." "Well, Your Honor," Frank replies softly, "I keep thinking about the person who lost that money, $50,000. That could be someone's life savings, college funds for their kids, or money meant for medical expenses. I just can't stop worrying about them." Frank's continued concern speaks volumes about his integrity. "My wife Rose and I talked about it all night," he continues. "We wondered if it might have been an elderly person who hid the money at home and it got tossed accidentally. Or maybe someone carrying cash to buy a car." Judge Caprio raises an eyebrow. "Mr. Romano, didn't you and your wife ever think about what $50,000 could mean for your own family?" Frank's response reflects his moral compass. "Your Honor, Rose and I raised 3 children on a janitor's salary. We always taught them that you never take what isn't yours, no matter how tempting it is. How could we keep that money and still look our kids and grandkids in the eye? We already have enough. Good health, a home, and children who became kind, honest adults. Someone out there is missing that money. We couldn't live peacefully knowing it might be the difference between losing their home or affording medicine. Judge Caprio pauses, clearly moved by Frank's conviction. Tell me, he asks gently, what shaped these values of yours? Frank smiles humbly. My parents came to this country from Italy with nothing, Your Honor. They worked multiple jobs, saved every dollar, and always reminded us that our reputation is the one thing we truly own. They'd say, whether rich or poor, you can always choose honesty. Judge Caprio straightens, ready to speak not only to Frank, but to the deeper values behind his actions. Mr. Romano, what you demonstrated is something rarely seen today. Genuine integrity without expecting anything in return. Frank shifts slightly, uneasy with the attention, but Judge Caprio continues. You discovered $50,000, and your first thought wasn't about what it could do for you, but how to return it to its rightful owner. Returning to his bench, Judge Caprio delivers his decision firmly. Mr. Romano, regarding your parking citation, the fine is fully dismissed. Frank looks both surprised and thankful, but the judge has one more message. More importantly, I want this courtroom to recognize the integrity you've shown. In a world where we often focus on people's worst behavior, you've reminded us of what humanity looks like at its best. Your first instinct when you found that money wasn't to look around or see if someone was watching. You didn't try to justify why you might deserve it. Your immediate thought was about the person who lost it, and how worried they must be. That kind of integrity, that instinct to do the right thing without hesitation, is what keeps communities strong. It's what allows society to function with trust. Frank nods slowly, realizing why his actions have touched so many people. Your Honor, I still believe any decent person would have done the same, he says. Mr. Romano, Judge Caprio replies, the fact that you think that way proves exactly why you're the kind of person who'd return $50,000 without a second thought. Judge Caprio opens his desk drawer. Mr. Romano, I'd like to present you with this commendation from the court in recognition of your outstanding civic virtue and moral character. Frank accepts the certificate with quiet gratitude. Your story will be shared far beyond this courtroom, the judge continues. You've reminded all of us what it truly means to be a person of integrity. Frank's eyes fill with emotion. Your Honor, he says softly, if doing the right thing inspires even one more person to be honest, then all of this attention will have been worth it. If you're inspired by people like Frank Romano, those who still believe in doing the right thing, hit that like button and let us know where you're watching from. Frank stands tall, now seen not as a defendant, but as a symbol of integrity. Your Honor, he adds, I never imagined that something I was simply taught as a child would one day bring me to a courtroom, to be honored instead of punished. Judge Caprio, Mr. Romano, you've reminded everyone that character still counts, that integrity is alive and well, and that some people still choose to do the right thing simply because it's right. Mr. Romano, Your Honor, my wife Rose always says, we're only as good as what we do when no one's watching. I suppose this time, the whole world was watching. Narration. Judge Caprio glances toward the gallery where Frank's family is seated. Judge Caprio. Mr. Romano, I understand your wife Rose is here today, along with some of your children and grandchildren. Narration. Frank smiles and waves to his family, the very people who shaped his values. Mr. Romano. Your Honor, they're the ones who deserve the credit. Rose has been my moral compass for 51 years, and our children learned integrity by watching her. Narration. Judge Caprio gestures for the family to approach. Judge Caprio, Mrs. Romano, would you please join your husband? I want to recognize the family that raised a man of such character. Narration. Rose Romano, age 71, walks forward with their adult children and grandchildren, visibly moved by this moment of recognition for the values they've upheld all their lives. Judge Caprio turns toward Mrs. Romano, addressing her with respect. Mrs. Romano, your husband describes you as his moral compass. What would you like people to understand about the values that shaped your family? Rose answers with quiet dignity. Your Honor, we always taught our children that you can't choose what life brings, good or bad, but you can always choose how you respond. Frank made the right choice. Judge Caprio nods appreciatively. Mr. and Mrs. Romano, your example reflects the very best of what family can represent. Frank's eldest daughter, a school principal, steps forward. Your Honor, watching our parents teach us right from wrong wasn't always easy. There were times we wanted things they couldn't afford. But now we realize they gave us something far more valuable than money. They gave us character. Judge Caprio then addresses everyone in the courtroom, his words carrying deep meaning. Ladies and gentlemen, what you've witnessed here today is the reason I've spent 47 years in this courtroom. Not to punish people, but to recognize and honor the best in human character whenever I see it. He pauses, then adds, Mr. Romano found $50,000 and never once thought it might be his. In a world often defined by negativity and selfishness, he reminds us that integrity is still alive. Where are you watching from today? Share your city and state in the comments, because stories like Frank's prove that decency and character can be found in every corner of America. While the media tends to highlight scandal and corruption, here stands a man who embodies the quiet heroism of everyday honesty. Frank Romano represents millions of Americans who choose to do what's right, not for praise, but because it's who they are. His family has built their legacy on timeless values that may seem simple yet are becoming increasingly rare. Honesty, integrity, compassion, and the belief that character outweighs comfort. Mr. Romano's story has already begun to inspire change across the community. The police department reports receiving calls from people eager to return lost items. Local businesses are sharing his story with employees as a lesson in ethics. When one person chooses integrity, the ripple spreads, influencing lives far beyond what they could ever imagine. Frank Romano's decision to return the money will inspire countless honest acts from people he'll never even meet. Frank nods modestly. Your Honor, if my story motivates parents to teach their children about integrity or helps young people realize that character matters more than money, then I'm glad this happened. As the session concludes, Frank Romano leaves the courtroom, not only with his parking ticket dismissed, but also as a recognized example of integrity, the kind of moral strength communities deeply need. Judge Caprio's acknowledgement highlights what's possible when our institutions choose to celebrate virtue rather than merely punish wrongdoing, when those in authority use their influence to promote hope and honesty. Frank Romano's story reminds us that integrity has no expiration date, that doing what's right never goes out of style, and that the greatest power for good in any community comes from ordinary people making extraordinary choices through simple acts of honesty. Here's a question we should all ask ourselves. When life offers a choice between easy money and true integrity, do we act like Frank Romano, or do we justify taking what isn't rightfully ours? Frank discovered that doing the right thing, even when no one is watching, can sometimes lead the whole world to take notice. He proved that living with integrity builds a legacy far more valuable than wealth. If Frank Romano's story reminded you of the power of honesty and character, subscribe for more moments of Judge Caprio's wisdom. And share in the comments a time when someone's integrity made a real difference in your life. The next time you're tempted to take a shortcut or keep something that doesn't belong to you, remember Frank Romano.